Welcome to the Real Life Weight Loss Podcast, where we cut through the confusion and get down to the truth about what really works for real people when it comes to losing weight, having incredible health, and a body that you love. We believe that losing weight is really about gaining life, doing things you never thought you could, having renewed confidence, and enjoying your body more than ever. I'm your host, Corey Little. Now let's get to it. Hello, my friends. Welcome back. This is episode number 297, and today I'm going to share with you some simple weight loss tips that are basically guaranteed to work. This is something that I don't really do that often on this podcast. I'm not a big tips kind of guy, but today I want to share with you some simple weight loss tips that will help you if you just want to drop a few pounds or need to get rid of some weight pretty quick. These are weight loss tips that will help you do that, and they're pretty simple to implement, so stay tuned for that. But before I get into that, let me go ahead and tell you or remind you of the wonderful free gift. I think it's a wonderful free gift that I have for all of you in celebration of the 1 millionth download for this podcast. I'm not exactly sure when this episode will be released, but it probably has happened by now. So yay to 1 million downloads. I have all of you to thank for that. Thank you so much from the bottom of my heart for spending some time with me each and every week. Thank you for sharing the podcast with friends or family or coworkers. Thank you for rating and reviewing the podcast. All of those things are so incredibly helpful, and that is what helped this podcast that's had zero paid promotion, zero advertising. That is exactly what has helped this podcast to reach 1 million downloads, and I'm excited to move forward and keep marching towards 2 million or 3 million and on and on and on. So thank you from the bottom of my heart. Now, in celebration of that, I have a free gift for you. I want to give you two free lessons from my Live Life, Lose Fat program. This is what we use inside my private Inner Circle coaching group, so you can get a little taste of what that program is like. You won't get access to the private coaching group, which is really amazing, but you will get these two free lessons. So you can go to CoreyLittleCoaching.com/free. The easiest thing to do, honestly, just scroll down to the show notes. You'll find that link there. You can click there. You'll enter your email. We'll send you an email in response that will give you access to those lessons. So CoreyLittleCoaching.com/free, or just scroll down to the show notes in order to get that free gift. Okay, now, without further ado, let's get into this. These simple weight loss tips that work. Tip number one, very simple. Want to lose some weight? Just do this. Eat every single meal wearing some pants that are, if we're really honest, they're a little too small. They're maybe one or two sizes too small. And be sure to eat with no shirt. So I know this can be a little, socially awkward. Maybe this is something you only do at home, maybe for breakfast and then for dinner once you're at home. So just put on these tight pants and then don't put on a shirt and sit down at your table to eat. And I guarantee this over time will work. You will eat less and you will eventually lose some weight from that. So that's big tip number one. Big tip number two of the simple weight loss tips that work is to put a mirror in front of your table or in front of your couch, so that anytime you sit down to eat, whether it's at your table or your couch, or maybe you need to put one of these somewhere in the kitchen for when you go to grab those foods, those snack foods and those trigger foods, so that when you go to eat these things, you either are watching yourself grab the foods or you're watching yourself eat those foods. This can be a really powerful way to kind of snap you back into reality and go, oh, wait, look at this. I have to watch myself eat these foods. I can't just go mindless into all this. Wow, look at this. And if you really want to get a massive weight loss effect from this, pair up the first tip and this tip together. Wear the tight pants with no shirt and put a mirror in front of your table or couch. Ooh, man, talk about some incredible synergy. You'll lose weight super fast like this. Now, number three of the simple weight loss tips that work is before you eat any food that's quote unquote not on your program, right? Like if you're trying to diet or you're trying to do a program, before you eat any food that's not on your program, like, oh, I'm having a weak moment, stand and proclaim out loud. Maybe put your hands in the air. Maybe even call a friend or something, but just out loud say, I'm eating this because I like not getting results. I'm eating this because I enjoy not getting results. And then go ahead and eat it. That'll really help in the long run too. That'll be really incredibly helpful. Now the fifth, fourth, fifth, whatever we are, and final simple weight loss tip is to pick your top 3 to 5 trigger foods. Those foods that, oh my gosh, I just have such a hard time controlling myself with those foods, and I always just eat too much, and I just eat half the bag of chips before I realize it, or I just eat almost the entire half gallon or the pint of ice cream, whatever it is. Pick your top 3 to 5 trigger foods And I want you to get ready because we're going to eat as much as you want. And you may think, wait a minute, how can this help me lose weight? Well, here's the thing. You can't eat these foods until right after taking a nice big dose of Ipecac. Now, some of you may say, Ipecac, what is that? Ipecac is actually a medication that they give to people who have maybe had drug overdoses. Anytime someone needs to vomit and they need to get the contents of their stomach out, they give, in a medical setting, they'll give them a dose of Ipecac. And here's what I know, is that anytime we eat a food and then later we wind up seeing that food again and we maybe, unfortunately, throw it up or vomit it up, man, that leaves a, no pun intended, a really bad taste in our mouth. And we typically don't want that food again for a while, right? If you go out and you eat Mexican food and you come home and 2 or 3 hours later, here it comes up, well then, oh my gosh, I never want to see Mexican food again. So this is a great way to make sure that your top 3 to 5 trigger foods are no longer your trigger foods, because you will not want to eat those again. And for anyone that's new to this podcast, they're like, this guy is absolutely insane and I hate his guts. For all of you that have been listening for a while, you probably knew early on, like, simple weight loss tips at work. This doesn't sound like Corey at all. Here's the thing, my friends. All of those, obviously, all of those are in jest. All of those are humorous, right? I can't stand weight loss tips. Weight loss tips and tricks and secrets. I'm just not a fan of that. Why? Because you, me, any of us, we don't need tips. We need transformation. We need more than just tips. Why do I not like weight loss tips? Because they don't work. They don't work. As if we've been going through life really struggling in a certain area of our life, like here with weight loss, right? We're like really struggling. We've been going through life, dragging this around, dragging our struggles around with us. And who knew? The only reason we've been having these problems is just all because we haven't stumbled across the right tips yet. I mean, that's all we needed, right? We don't need true guidance. We don't need coaching or help. We don't need someone to teach us how to do this. We don't need a system or a step-by-step approach. We don't need to get to the underlying stuff, the stuff that keeps causing us to self-doubt, self-sabotage, and then self-implode. We don't need that. We don't need to dig into what's going on behind the scenes in our head and figure out why we actually struggle to be consistent or why we always gain the weight back. We don't need any of that. That's nonsense. Why? Because actually all we need is a few more weight loss tips. That's the ticket. If only we had known all along that the path to true life-changing weight loss success was paved with a bunch of random tips from a bunch of random online sources written by a bunch of random experts who may really or really not be experts at all. And all of these experts have their own unique perspectives and educational backgrounds and beliefs and experiences. You may not even realize it, but you may get one supposedly great tip from an expert who believes that keto is the best and only way to lose weight. And then the very next day or later that day, you get another tip from a different expert who believes in a low-fat approach. And then another tip from someone who just thinks we need to eat whole foods and everything must be organic. If it's not organic, then that's terrible. And then you have another tip from someone else who believes that no one should ever tell you what to eat or what not to eat because you should simply be listening to your body and eating intuitively. And there you are with a bunch of random tips that have been scattered all across the internet from a bunch of possibly very different experts with very different perspectives. And you are hoping that putting all of these together will help you achieve the body you've always wanted. It's kind of like the Frankenstein diet that I've talked about previously. If we bring it into like an analogy or metaphor, you guys know I love to kind of talk in analogies and stories and metaphors. It's kind of like picking up scraps of wood and leftover nails and screws that you find here and there, and then collecting all of those things and hoping you'll one day eventually be able to build your dream home from it. Would you ever do that? No way, right? Well, what would you do if you wanted to build your dream home? You would have a plan. You would save money to buy to have a down payment, to hire the contractor to do the things you needed to do. And then would you just say, oh, we just want some kind of a home that looks really nice? No, you would have floor plans and you would maybe work with an architect or a designer, or maybe you would draw these out yourself, but you would have a plan. You would hire a builder, an expert to execute this plan, to help you do this, right? And then you would have a plan and a step-by-step process where they go and they clear the land, and then they lay the foundation, and then they frame the house, all these things, and you would oversee this, and it would wind up being your dream home, but it doesn't happen haphazardly. It doesn't happen by you picking up scraps of wood and leftover nails and screws that you find along the way and hoping that one day eventually it all comes together to be your dream home. So maybe if we don't do that with a dream home, maybe we should do the same with weight loss and changing our body. But here's the thing, let's get honest, right? Tips are just so enticing. I know, because I do it too. Maybe not in weight loss, but in other areas of my life where I want to improve. I'm just like you. And I fall for this. I look for tips and I look for tricks. And sadly, many of us will keep looking for and collecting tips. It's true, isn't it? Like, some of us are kind of tip collectors, aren't we? It's just so fun to look for them, especially with the internet and with Google and all this stuff. Like, oh, I can just collect so many tips, and we get to look and read articles and keep trying to find new stuff that just might be helpful. But why? Why do we do this when obviously it hasn't been working for us? It hasn't worked, right? If it had worked, you wouldn't be listening to this podcast. You wouldn't be taking your time with me today. I love that you are, and I wish you nothing but incredible success. But here's the thing. We keep searching for and collecting tips when it hasn't worked. So the question is, why? And I believe there are a few reasons. Number one, and there's a ton of reasons, but I've tried to narrow it down a bit. Number one, and this is the big one. Turn the volume up. Please hear me. It is so much more fun to search for answers than to actually put the answers into action. It is so much more fun to search for tips and tricks than it is to actually put a plan into action in our lives. Because once we step across the line and we start taking action, then we realize, wait a minute, I've got to do stuff. I got to move outside of my comfort zone. This isn't just a tip. This is like a progressive plan. And wow, the underlying fear that starts to creep up is I actually have to change. Some people in my coaching group have been talking about that this week. They're like, holy snot, I never thought I was actually afraid of my own success. And these people have been making some changes, and they're having just tremendous, wonderful experience, and their bodies are beginning to change, and they're beginning to change how they think, and it's cropping up, and they're going, wow, I am actually scared of change. The very thing that I want to lose weight, I'm realizing that kind of scares me. I'm seeing my body change. I'm seeing weight loss happen, and it scares me. And that all happens when we actually put a plan into action. So one of the big reasons we search for tips and tricks and secrets is because it's so much more fun to do that than it is to actually put a plan into action in our lives. Because the plan requires so much more of us, and it requires us to step outside of our comfort zone. But the plan is also, and it doesn't have, I just use the word plan. I'm talking about something structured, more structured than random tips and tricks. That is also likely what will lead us to where we want to be, just like with you building your dream home. Number two, the second big reason I think that we do this is because we can pick and choose from all the tips that we come across. Like, if we're honest, some of them we just instantly dismiss, right? You don't collect all the tips and tricks that you find. No, you only collect the ones that sound good to you and that will sort of kind of fit into your day or your life easily. If there's a great tip to eat a kale salad every night for dinner because it has unique fat-burning properties, and you really hate kale, you're not going to embrace that tip. Or, for some people, here's what their brain will do. They'll go, well, the only way I can lose weight is by eating this super fat-burning kale salad, and I hate kale, so therefore I will never lose weight and I'm doomed. It's just the way our brain works, isn't it? So that's the second big reason that we do this, is because we can pick and choose from all the tips, and we can pick the ones that we like a little bit more, or that fit our schedule and our life a little bit better. The third reason that we tend to search for tips and tricks instead of committing to something more is for exactly that. It's not committal. Come on, Corey. Come on, get it together, buddy. Tips and tricks, they're super non-committal, and there's no accountability. We always have an easy way out. If it's just us on our phone, scrolling, looking through Google or Facebook or Instagram at what the latest, greatest article or influencer is telling us to do to help us burn fat and drop belly fat, well, then we can kind of tinker around and play with that on our own without telling anybody. And so then if it doesn't work or we fail, if we feel like a failure, we don't really feel like that big of a failure because we just sort of kind of halfway did it and we didn't really commit to it. If we write our name on the dotted line, if we step across the line of commitment and go, okay, I am doing this, then suddenly there's stuff on the line, right? We've committed. We've stepped over the line. We're planting our flag and saying, this is what we're doing. And even though we may not broadcast it to everyone, it's a commitment. And then we don't want to let ourselves down. And then oftentimes there's accountability associated with that. We don't want to let other people down. And that's tougher. That's much tougher than the top 5 tips from the latest, greatest fitness influencer on Instagram of how to lose belly fat. We can just kind of do 2 or 3 of those, a little bit here or there. And then when they don't work, we can just rationalize, oh, wow, my body's cursed. I'll never lose this belly fat because XYZ, because I'm in menopause, because I'm in perimenopause, because I'm in postmenopause, because my testosterone dropped way too much, because I've got 5 kids and I have no free time, because my husband's not supportive of me, because my wife's not supportive of me, because I don't like any of the veggies and my parents didn't raise me right. They didn't raise me to eat healthy foods. They just fed me candy all the time. Because. I'm sorry if this isn't you. Please forgive me, but maybe some of this connects. I don't mean for this to come across as a rant, but it's just stuff that kind of drives me crazy because, my friends, when we're looking for tips, it's like, imagine if somebody sliced their leg open with a huge knife or maybe even a chainsaw, right? They have this gaping, gashing wound that is bleeding profusely, and it needs serious medical attention. And then let's imagine you run into your home and you grab a Band-Aid, like a little, 3 or 4 inch Band-Aid, and you run it out and hand it to them. Here, put this on that. I'll give you 2 or 3 more. Put this on that giant cut. Put this on that giant wound. They don't need Band-Aids. They need serious medical attention. Tips are like Band-Aids. We don't need tips. We need transformation. Now, there are a ton of other reasons that a lot of us reach for tips and tricks and secrets, and I could go on, but most of the reasons fall underneath one of those 3 that I just listed. So here's what I want to do right now. I want to transition. This episode is going to be a little bit shorter, and you're probably like, thank God, what got into Corey? What's wrong with him? So hang with me. Here's what I want to do to wrap up. I want to give you some questions. I want to help you really explore this idea, and then I want to help you find your best next step, okay? So here we go. Question number 1. And you got to be honest with yourself, my friends. This is why I always say, and I'll say it again. If I don't say it again at the end of this episode, I'm going to say it now. I encourage you to share this episode with someone. Maybe the 2 of you can just sit around and talk about how big of a jerk I am. That's okay, because there's been a lot of sarcasm and humor in this episode. I apologize. I try not to make too many episodes like that, but I think it can be kind of fun. I hope we can all laugh at ourselves, because as I've told you, I am exactly like this. I am in your exact same shoes, maybe not in weight loss, but in other areas of my life where I struggle and I'm challenged to progress. I am exactly like you. How do you think I know this stuff? Because I do it too. So this is not aimed at you. This is aimed at me. This is my experience as well, okay? So share this episode with a friend. Both of you get together, or a coworker or a spouse, someone who really loves you and you really love them, and you can trust each other, right? And you can speak the truth. And then go through these questions. Get really honest with yourself and really honest with each other. Question number 1. Do you enjoy looking for and finding new tips? And there's nothing wrong. I'm not going to judge you. I hope they won't judge you. Nobody judge anybody here. It's a natural part of human life. It can be fun. So, do you fall into that? Do you enjoy looking for and finding new tips? Question number 2. Are you falling victim to this tip mentality, believing deep down, if you get honest, believing that maybe the right tips, or if you just get enough tips, that will help you eventually achieve the success that you want, the success that you have always desired with your body? Question number 3, has it worked for you? Like, honestly, is it beneficial? And here's the thing. Let me be very clear. It can work, I guess. I don't see it a lot. I don't hear from a ton of people who go, man, Corey, like, I just kind of sought out a bunch of little different tips and implemented them into my life here and there and here and there. And, I've really achieved the success I wanted. I'm not saying it can't work. I'm sure it can. And maybe some of you out there are like, dude, you're such an a-hole and it totally worked for me and I hate you and I hate this episode. Okay, I'm so sorry. I'm not saying it can't work. I'm sure it can. I just think the odds of it working, especially for someone in an area of life where they've struggled for an extended period of time, the odds of this tip mentality working are very, very low. And as long as we keep buying into that, it's probably going to keep us away from what we really need. So, Has it worked for you? And if the answer is yes, or it is working, fantastic. Then keep going. Keep doing it. If you feel it's beneficial, keep doing it. But if not, then let's move forward here. This is my last question. What are you going to do about it? So if you go through these and you're like, yeah, I like looking for new tips, and yeah, I'm kind of falling victim to that tip mentality, and no, honestly, like, it hasn't worked. I don't like admitting that. I just want to keep looking for tips, but it hasn't worked. So if that's the case for you, if those are your answers, your responses, then what are you going to do about it? Are you going to consciously and intentionally stop looking for tips? Like, are you going to stop traveling down that road and turn onto a new road? Are you going to take a new path? Or are you going to just go back to kind of what you've always done? And if it hasn't been working for you and you want to take a new path, then what will you put into play? And right here is where any great podcaster or marketer would try to sell you their program. And I'm not going to try to do that. You guys know who I am. You know where I'm at. And you know how to contact us. And if my program's right for you, we would love to have you. But I'm not trying to shove you or funnel you into my program. I only want the people there who it's a great fit for. But here's what I don't want for you. I don't want you to keep falling victim to this tip mentality if it's not working. I want to shake you out of that and get you on a new path. And maybe that new path is a previous program that you've done and you really liked. And then life got crazy and, you moved to a new state, or you lost your job, or you had to change jobs, or your child got really sick, God forbid, or something like that, right? And you got pulled away from that program. Maybe it's the previous program you've done. Maybe it's a diet book that you read during a super busy time of life, or while you were on vacation and you went, wow, this really makes sense, and I really think this would work, and this would be great, so I'm going to put this into play. Now you want to take that step and actually put it into play, even though you didn't in the past. Or maybe it's some other online expert who you've gotten to know them and you trust them. It's so important that you trust and connect with whatever program or person or coach or diet or whatever that you plan to do. It's so important that you trust and connect with what they're teaching and preaching and telling you. And that it kind of makes sense to you. If somebody's telling you something and you're like, this makes no sense to me, I can't understand this, then you probably won't connect. But it's so important that it makes sense and you trust them and you can connect with it. So that's the final question. What will you put into play if you've been falling for this tip mentality and it hasn't been working for you? Lastly, let me just say thank you so much for your time. I know, like I said, this episode was a little bit of tough love. It was a little snarky and sarcastic and hopefully maybe humorous at times. Hopefully, if you've been listening for a while, you know me and you got a few chuckles out of it. But I really appreciate you bearing with me and listening to the entire episode. I promise we'll get back to kind of more of the normal broadcasting and more of the normal episodes where it's not a rant like this in the future. But every now and then, I think it's good for all of us just to kind of have a little something different. So this was a little something, a little curveball for everyone. All right, my friends, that's it. I'm going to wrap up like I always do. But first, let me remind all of you about the 1 millionth download gift that I have for all of you. 2 free lessons from my Live Life Lose Fat program. Just scroll down to the show notes. You'll find that link there. CoreyLittleCoaching.com/free. Again, you'll find the link down there. And we'll be happy to send you 2 of those free lessons. If any of you are like, man, Corey's absolutely right, these tips and tricks are crazy and it's not working, and you want more information about what we do, well, the first and simplest thing would be for you to just jump in and get those 2 free lessons and take a look there. But if you don't want to do that, you can shoot an email to support@CoreyLittleCoaching.com, and we'll be happy to tell you more about the Inner Circle and the Live Life Lose Fat program and what we do and how we do it. Okay? That is it, my friends. I hope that you always remember and never forget that there's so much more to you than a number. So don't let the scales dominate your headspace or dictate your emotions or your mood for the entire day. No. You're so much more than that. And losing weight's incredible. I love helping people do it. It can really be transformative. But what's truly transformative is not just losing weight, but it's gaining life and living the life that you've always wanted to live. And that's what I love helping people do. You can gain so much life, even if you only lose 5 pounds or 10 pounds. That may not seem like much to you. Maybe it does seem like a lot to you, but I'm telling you, you can gain 1,000 pounds of life, of amazing, wonderful, fun, confident life if you go about this process the right way. And I hope all of you will do that. Thank you so much for your time today, my friends. Please know that I believe in you. Even if you struggle to believe in yourself, keep coming back. You can borrow my belief, and we will do everything possible to help get you where you want to be. Take care. God bless. Bye-bye.